Hello, friends. I am the creepy puppeteer. Welcome to October, the scariest month of all. Okay, so this was the mask that I originally created when I was doing puppeteering work, and I figured since it's October, it'd be appropriate to bring it out as a kind of horror host vibe. And, if I like performing in it, I might do it more often, though I am getting like foam up my nose, and even though the mouth moves a little bit, it's not great, and also it is quite warm in this thing. So we'll see how it goes. The other problem is that it's like a sound dampener I'm wearing on my face, and I know my microphone isn't very good. I'm getting a new one. But I thought it might be kind of fun. All right, it was kind of hot in there. Hi, folks, I'm Tommy. I'm a data scientist with a love of the weird, and I occasionally like to talk about weird stuff when I'm not talking about philosophy or politics or data science. So what I primarily wanted to talk about, because it's October, is Halloween nostalgia. So I'm recording this on Sunday, October 3rd. It'll probably go up later in the week because this is midterms week for us here at the university. So I'm just crazy busy. But I might do more of these sort of unscripted reflections, up my content to 2 videos a week, if it's something I can handle with my schedule. So when I was a kid, one of my favorite movies for Halloween was the 1997 Disney Channel original movie Under Wraps, starring Bill Fagerbakke as a reanimated mummy. And this past weekend, they've made a remake of it. And I wanted to talk briefly about my reactions and reflections to the remake, which I've seen a couple times now. But that wasn't, the biggest story of things airing on the Disney Channel. We also got season 3 premiere of Amphibia. So I thought I'd talk just briefly about that before I give a couple quick thoughts that I had on the Under Wraps remake as a fan of the 1997 version. So the new season 3 premiere of Amphibia was fine. So there was the part we saw that had been released previously of Anne reuniting with her family, and that was great. But then they slowed it down to do a quarantine story, which is, it's obvious the context for which they're making the quarantine story. In the context, it's because they're afraid of people seeing the frogs. And I think this illustrates like a common problem the show Amphibia has, which is its tendency to waste time with side nonsense. And it's a kid's show, and it made a lot of sense when it was purely episodic back in the first season. But we have a plot now, and I understand that there is a way to structure this kind of content into that, but this is the very first episode. I really wish you were a little more focused in this episode and had cut this quarantine storyline and focused more on the emotions of Anne and the frogs in the human world. This is not the time for a waste of time plot on quarantine. I'm sorry, I got foam up my nose and now I'm sneezing. The second half was fine. I liked that it was back to some cool action, and I'm really excited to see how this season unfolds. The Ghost and Molly McGee. So this was a cute little cartoon that aired this weekend. It's fine. The characters are all likable and interesting, and I'm curious to see where it goes. It just, I need to see more of it, I think, to make an informed opinion. I think I've got some foam in my beard. Okay, so Under Wraps. So if you've never seen it, in the 1997 version of the film, these 3 kids, one of whom loves horror, end up accidentally resurrecting a mummy, and they befriend the mummy. They end up having to return the mummy to his coffin or he'll disintegrate, and they foil some bad guys along the way. You know, this movie, for an early attempt at a Disney Channel original movie, uh, was actually kind of edgy. I mean, the makeup effects were pretty gruesome looking. In the movie, there is a character who makes gore effects, and some of those gore effects are quite good looking. And of course, the mummy, played by Bill Fagerbakke, does great physical comedy. My main issue with the remake my main issue with the remake is that it is basically a scene for scene remake of the original, except for a couple of scenes which were the edgiest scenes. So, like, they've made it tamer. Um, so, for example, the monster in the movie that the kids are watching in the beginning, in the original was quite scary. In this, it's the most ridiculous rubber mask looking creature I've ever seen. It's just unbelievably silly. Um, I mentioned the gore effects already. Sorry, I have notes here. Um, there's also a scene in the original movie where Harold the mummy wanders into a hospital and is mistaken for a burn victim. And it's kind of reasonable because the gore effects on his face kind of look burn victim-y. And so, like, that was cut probably because they didn't want people to think too much about him being a burn victim. I mean, the replacement characters are fine. I remember the girl, Amy, being a little bit more weird. I think she had a hippie mother. It's been a while since I've seen the original movie. They've replaced the hippie mother with like 3 gay dads or something. I don't know. I didn't care. The one character that I will say just irritated me is the new version of the nerd friend who doesn't like horror movies. His name is Gilbert. And oh boy. So he was sort of the white nerd trope in the original. They've given him the black nerd trope this time. But his direction must have been watch the entire filmography of Chris Tucker and just do that shtick. And it was really quite grating. Another scene they cut out, which I actually think makes sense, is the part where the villain fakes his death in the beginning, because that never really made a lot of sense in the first movie. But it's still, you know, to say the words, oh, the bad guy died at the beginning of the movie is a little bit of edginess. I'm also not going to compare the performance of whoever, of the current mummy actor to Bill Fagerbakke because it's not really fair. I think Bill Fagerbakke's performance as Harold was quite iconic. The one thing I will say that I think the remake does better is the stepfather storyline. In the original, the stepfather and the mummy are played by the same actor, and there's a plot line about the main character Marshall bonding with his stepfather, and so the dual role kind of plays a symbolic thing that, like, the relationship with the mummy helps facilitate the relationship with the stepfather. Great, fantastic. I don't know if it's the same actor in The Mummy as playing the stepfather in this version, but my guess is probably. But I feel like the weight of the stepfather storyline is a lot more potent in this version than it was in the last one. I think in the original it's just kind of incidental to the story, whereas in this one it's sort of the emotional heart of the story. Okay, so this has been my semi-scripted rant on the new Under Wraps film, and you've seen my mask, which I'm going to play with more in October. And that's all for now, folks. Take care.